Hello everybody, hope you're having a good Sunday night. I'm doing a little mini video here for a couple of purposes. First is to test some technical upgrades that I've made to the show. As you can see, our lighting has improved. I'm also recording this video on a brand new iPhone 11 Pro. So far so good. The second purpose that I'm doing this video for is because I was going through some old stuff earlier tonight and I came across a few items from back when I was a teenager in the 1990s that, and looking back on them now, it's quite a bit different than when I looked on them before. So I thought it might be cool to show you guys some of them as like a little retro time capsule sort of thing. Oh, the 90s. There's a lot about you that I loved and some that I certainly didn't. Okay, so first up we have WWF The Music Volume 2. This was part of a series of CDs that the World Wrestling Federation put out, which contained entrance themes for wrestlers. Nowadays, of course, you can find any entrance music for any wrestler you want to on YouTube. But back in the 1990s, we did not have YouTube, and in fact, we barely had the internet. So if you wanted to get your favorite wrestlers' themes available to listen to whenever you wanted, you had to do something like this. Interesting note, this particular collection was the first collection to feature an entrance theme for The Rock. He was not known as The Rock at that time. He was known as Rocky Maivia, and that was a gimmick that he had for about 8 months until he became The Rock. But back in 1996, this was where it was at. Up next, we have a VHS copy of Star Trek Generations. Of course, you can still find VHS tapes at pawn shops and thrift stores, and I still have a VHS player, VCR, a little out of the view of the camera there, because I watch these tapes once in a blue moon if I'm feeling nostalgic. Not so much now, but I still keep a few of them around, just kind of for old time's sake and because I think they're sort of cool looking. Up next, we have the X-Files, Tiger, Tiger. This was part of a collection of young adult novels that were written, and each novel was based on an episode of the X-Files. The novels went into a little more detail than the actual episodes did, and an interesting note about this one, Tiger, Tiger was not the original name of the episode. The actual episode this is based on was called Fearful Symmetry, but the book is named Tiger, Tiger. My guess would be because they thought that Fearful Symmetry might be a little too scary for young readers or something, but who knows. Up next, we have Spider-Man 2099, issue number 1. Spider-Man 2099, issue number 1. And this was part of a series that Marvel did where they took a bunch of their superheroes and basically jumped them ahead about 100 years and did a whole sequence like this. So there was Spider-Man, Doctor Doom, X-Men, Punisher, Incredible Hulk. The series didn't last all that long, but it did have some cool elements too, and I did actually have the number 1 issues for most of the series, which is pretty neat. This thing is from 1992, so it's certainly getting up there in age. Another interesting thing about this is on the back, there's an ad for Marvel collectible cards, and if you look at the design on this for Wolverine, it is really fierce looking. Okay, moving on, we have Winning at Nintendo. Now, if you can believe it, this was published in 1990, so it's almost 30 years old. And holy crap, that makes me feel old. But this was not published by Nintendo. It was a third-party company, and basically it gave you quote-unquote tips about Nintendo games. Like here you've got Batman on one side and Super Mario 3 on the other side. The tips weren't spectacular. They were just kind of, if you've never played this game before, here's a few things you should probably know. Here's the page for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you're not going to learn much from this, but in looking at it in 2019, it's just a cool throwback to old games, some of which you probably have never played, and a few, that you might have never even heard of. For example, here's a game called Silent Service. I've never played this game. I've never heard of this game, really, but it existed, and if you need some tips for it, here it is. And last but not least, my personal favorite, my Nintendo Power magazines. Now, I had a subscription to Nintendo Power from the late 1980s all the way through the early 2000s, so I had it for a lot of years. Both of these issues I have here tonight are from the late 90s, right around the time when the N64 was pretty big. One of the reasons I like looking through these in today's day and age is you can see all kinds of retro commercial advertisements for games and other kinds of things. So, for example, here's an advertisement for the original Rainbow Six game way back when. And then on the back of this is an ad for Ready to Rumble Boxing. And that game, I believe, was also on the PlayStation. And last but not least, my favorite issue of Nintendo Power, this was the issue for the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And what's really cool about this, if you want to talk retro, this is a double pack right here. Because you've got a Game Boy Color out on one side, and on the other side it says, "Ye snooze, ye lose." And it's an ad for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time that features the gold cartridge, which was a collector's edition. The first batch of the game came out on that gold cartridge, which is really, really cool. And then if you leaf through this a little more, you will get to the very cool and very retro original Nintendo Power walkthrough for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. This is just one of about a couple of dozen of old Nintendo Power issues that I still have. Occasionally I'll leaf through them again just to relive the memories, but I don't bother with them too much these days. So that's our little retro 90s time capsule. I do thank you for joining me tonight. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and I will see you back here real soon.